Three, two, one, go.
Hello, hello. This is Ignacy from Portal Games.
And Corey Thompson from Dice Tower Now and Above Board.
And this is the Podfather of Gaming, Stephen Bonacore. You are listening to Board Games Insider, episode 286. And we're recording this on August 9th, 2023. Board Games Insider is a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. And wow, Gen Con. Wow. I mean, it was a crazy week, which you're going to hear a lot about here for everyone. And for the most part, I think everyone had a good time as well. Even the curmudgeonly Tom Vasson. Curmudgeonly. Do you know that word, Ignacy? Curmudgeon?
Absolutely no.
That's a grumpy old man.
There you go.
It's
Perfect.
a great word.
A grumpy old man. Anyway, seriously, I mean, we're going to get into a lot of Gen Con talk, what was hot, what went well and what didn't go well. Mostly good stuff. But in the meantime, Portal Games, what is happening, Ignacy?
In the meantime, it was for the first time in 10 years that I was not at Gen Con.
It's very sad.
Sounds crazy. But yes, as we mentioned in the previous episodes, we are focusing everything that we have for Essen Spiel. There is where we have our release, Imperial Settlers, Imperial Miners. So I had to pass on Gen Con this year. But I spent a week on my epic tournament. So I visited 6 different cities in 6 different days. I was traveling next to the eastern border of Poland, visiting cities that I was never before. I was presenting Imperial Miners because in each city there was a meeting with me at the local game pub or game club. So I spent amazing time with my wife. Had a great local food from the eastern part of the country. Met a ton of amazing geeks. So I had a blast as well. Also, of course, I was missing Gen Con. As for the company, what's happening at the company, we are sold out with 51st State. So if your local game store still have 51st State, or if you have missed that, we have a couple of copies left in our web store. But basically, I want to thank everyone who supported the game, supported the campaign, and everyone who bought the game later at the retail store, because it is our first success this year, sold out for 51st State. Also, we have sold out of the first expansion for 11. This was the most popular, obviously, because it was a solo campaign, and 11 has a great reviews for the solo play. So all the solo players loved to have this additional campaign, and the expansion is also sold out. So once again, thank you for support to all Portal Games fans and our listeners. On things that are not sold out yet, but hopefully will be at some point. On August 18th, we are starting pre-order campaign for Imperial Miners, the game I just mentioned, the game that I'm going to mention many times in upcoming weeks, because this is a release for Essen, and I'm super excited about this. So pay attention to that, and the next episode I will be here. I'll be talking about the Imperial Miners all time long. Other things, as always, I want to invite all our listeners to portalgamesus.com. You can find their out-of-stock items that we still have in our web store. We have some t-shirts, we have some mugs, we have some play mats, we have all these different things that are not in the regular distribution. This is something that I say once every couple of months, so maybe I will do it today. In most publishers' web stores, you guys can find the items that are not in a regular distribution. It is also true for a Portal Game. So all the play mats, all the mugs, t-shirts, some promo expansions, these are things that they have a print run too small to put in the regular distribution, so you cannot buy it at your local game store, but publishers have them on their website. So check out portalgamesus.com and see all the additional goodies, additional bonuses to our amazing games. And basically, I'm in a great mood, although I missed Gen Con, but I had a great tournament. Now we are preparing for Essen. This week we have the first meeting at the company, preparing how the booth looks like, what to talk with the volunteers, what to prepare, etc. So Operation Essen starts for us. And as always, after Gen Con, the next event is right around the corner.
Ignacy, did you know that at Gen Con there was a guy demoing, like in the open area someplace, and he had it on the schedule, demoing Imperial Miners, and he was offering to anybody who brought something over from Portal Games to give them like a free promo. Paula, my girlfriend, who you know, was going to bring me over and say, hey, does this count? I mean, he really knows Portal games well, but I would have been like, what's going on here?
Ruben is our crazy friend of the company, crazy volunteer. And he said, I'm coming to Gen Con. Ignacy, if by any chance I can have a sample of Imperial Miners, I'm just going wild and I'm just playing with people. And I said, Ruben, I love you, man. You have your copy. And I sent it to him.
It was sold out. Every time he ran, it was sold out. Yeah.
It was swamped.
He is absolutely amazing, and he's coming to every event with his backpack. In his backpack, he has the games, and he plays all convention long. He plays games. It's amazing.
Yeah, good for him. And it's a great game, so it's easy to play it all day long. Corey, what's going on with you, man? What a Gen Con you had.
It was absolutely insane. A lot went right, a lot went wrong. It was nuts. So all the news that I have is just from the past week. Remember, I arrived at Gen Con on Saturday. The show starts on Wednesday-ish, but I arrived on Saturday. It was nonstop work every single day. So I apologize if I didn't get to say hi to as many people as I meant to. But Above Board had our big outing. We had digital ads everywhere. We had dressed up the entire food service staff in our t-shirts. We were giving away breakfasts. We were giving away cups, these lovely Above Board cups. We were going nuts. We had our celebrity show. It worked. It was great. We had such a good time. So we had Utkarsh Ambudkar from Critical Role and from Ghosts. We had Chris Parnell from basically everything, but most well known from the voice of Jerry on Rick and Morty and the voice of Cyril on Archer. And we had Clark Gregg, Agent Coulson himself, who was from all the Marvel movies. And I have to tell you, they were the nicest people ever. So friendly, so outgoing, had such a good time hanging out with them. Clark had to leave pretty quickly, unfortunately, but Chris and Utkarsh asked for badges to Gen Con and wandered the halls, the demos, the dealer hall, and just had a fantastic time. So that was so amazing. And then I'm getting ready for trips. We're filming for Above Board in the Bahamas in 2 weeks.
Why am I not going? I mean, the Bahamas are like right. I mean, like I can actually take a boat there. It's kind of funny.
Are you dive certified?
Absolutely not.
All right. Well, I got sharks that would meet you if you're dive certified.
I can't wait to see this shoot.
And then we're going to Iceland in September, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to try to play Ono Volcano on a live volcano in Iceland. So things have been insane. I can barely keep my thoughts together, but so exciting. Yeah, I also just want to throw out there was an amazing party for the launch of Cosmoctopus from Henry Audubon and from Lucky Duck. It was... they went all out. They partnered with Jones Soda to make these intensely purple Cosmoctopus ink sodas that were just hysterical. So too much to list. Gen Con was amazing.
Amazing. And Corey, I really have to give extra time and shout out to the Above Board celebrity, that whole show you did. I mean, it was unbelievably good. I mean, you use the whole fact that the celebs were not allowed to talk about certain things
because of the strike. Because of the strike, our hands were tied. We actually could not even advertise the show until Tuesday. So I'm just glad that we had the turnout we did.
It was geek hysterical is just what I got to say. I mean, it was. I literally was just crying, laughing, sitting there in the reserved seat in front row that you saved for me. Thank you very much, Mr. Thompson. But really, so for everybody out there that's listening to this, please go over to YouTube and check out Above Board TV. It's just so good.
Thanks, Stephen.
You're very welcome. Over here at the Podfather Gaming, I'm going to give another shout out to the show that I'm doing on Board Game Geek called The Quad, which you can get right on the front page of Board Game Geek under that announcement sections. They always call it out there. The Quad, episode 5 has just dropped. Corey Thompson's going to be on the next episode that drops. So go check out all the passes. Only there's like 5 episodes now. Go check them out. We take one topic that's relevant to gaming, and each of us presents a different game that they believe best represents that thing, best theme in the game, whatever it is. We pick a theme. We'll pick a mechanic. We'll pick a designer. And we all scream, yell, and shout. No, we don't scream, but we all respectively present our games.
I remember screaming.
There was no screaming. Respectfully present our games, and then in a silly manner we argue about who's more correct. So check out the Quad. You can do it directly on Board Game Geek, or you go to the Board Game Geek YouTube channel. Go there and find the Quad and the episodes that are there. Gen Con, we're going to talk about it in a second. It was so good last week. Next trips, I'm going to Nashville, Tennessee in a week and a half, and Bowling Green, Kentucky. Why might I be going? Well, music in Nashville is amazing. Ignacy, Eric Link will be giving me a tour of Nashville while we're there. Eric Link.
You will love it. Eric is opposite to me. He knows how to party, so you will love it.
Well, yes, and he and I partied a little bit at the Yard House on a couple of evenings. So we just happened to mention, he was like, "Oh, wait, I'm going to take you to places. I'm like, sure, as long as it doesn't interfere with the next thing when I go down to Bowling Green, Kentucky, where I'm getting a tour of the Corvette assembly plant." Yes,
all right.
I know. As part of buying the Corvette and taking delivery at the National Corvette Museum, which is adjacent to the Corvette assembly plant, you get a free tour. Now, they couldn't do it during COVID, so they're doing it now. They're catching up. So myself and other Corvette enthusiasts who bought Corvettes will be getting. This is not open to the public. This is only given to those who have gone through this process with taking delivery of a car at the museum. So this is going to be amazing. And then after that, we fly to New Jersey for a cruise. Yay. It's not a gamer cruise, though. 18 friends of mine are going from New Jersey, all my old friends, and they're all gamers. So there you go. So it's a gamer cruise in that regard. And that's what's happening over here at the Podfather. Let's get over to the event deck. All right, so we're going to be doing lots of news today. And of course, Gen Con. We have to talk about a few things. First of all, Gen Con smashes through their attendance records. And this is marking the 20th year in Indianapolis. So while I don't have the final number,
They don't release the exact numbers.
And they don't, but, I know a guy, and they might be able to give me a little more info.
I know the number.
You know the exact number? You want to say it? Oh, you want to say it? No. Okay, you'll tell me later.
Let's say just shy of 71,000. Stole your thunder.
That doesn't make sense. So there were over 70,000 unique attendees, which makes this the largest Gen Con of all time. This breaks, the record from 2019, pre-COVID, where they had the high water mark at that point. And to say that it felt like it was that would be an understatement. They utilized space differently. Like there was even more stuff going on at the Lucas Oil Stadium, and there was a way to get there easily. They changed the place where the block party and all of the food trucks were to get more space. So they did their best to manage such a crazy number. Corey, any other comments about the size and scope?
It felt okay. I remember in 2019, 2018, it feeling ridiculously crowded, being in the sardine halls where you had to go with the flow of all the other people. And this one, even though we broke records, it didn't feel like that. It felt like you could go where you wanted to go. You weren't stuck in these absolutely shoulder-to-shoulder crowds. So I think they did a really good job in managing an unfathomable number of people. So all good. I was lucky enough to be able to go to kind of the post party for the Gen Con staff after. Hung out with the owners and the president of Gen Con and all the people who worked at Gen Con. It really was lucky. And they announced all the numbers and all the numbers of attendees, numbers of events, and they're all record breaking. It was really an incredible kudos to the group, kudos to Gen Con for managing it.
Right, indeed. One down portion of this, and this, we're also mentioning the hottest game at Gen Con, and that was Disney Lorcana. And there was a downside. There was a bad side to this. And I got to read from the article on ICV2. Let it never be said that Disney fans don't enjoy waiting in line, because Ravensburger pre-release of Disney Lorcana at Gen Con 2023 more or less provided indisputable proof that they do, even when line conditions become difficult. The Legends of the Disney Lorcana line at 2023 will go down as one of the most epic lines in Disney, and we know how about these crazy lines are at the theme parks, as game and game industry history, capturing the zeitgeist of the show. The story of the line actually begins to form far before Gen Con, with an array of plot points that lead up to the pre-release of the game. Shortly after the game was teased at D23, collector sets were offered on the secondary market for $10,000. But let's cut directly to Gen Con. People started queuing up the day before the hall.
Well, let me give a little bit of intro to this, because on the first day, I think everybody knew there was going to be big lines, but I think both Ravensburger and Gen Con were unaware of how big the lines were going to be. So the attendees kind of self-assembled themselves into lines, and the line on that first day went from the booth in the exhibit hall all the way to the end of the exhibit hall, all the way through the demo hall, back out of the demo hall, and all the way down the halls of Gen Con to outside. And the Gen Con staff wanted to manage this, and they kind of broke up the line that people were doing on their own on day one, and there were some problems. We'll just go with that. There was so from day 2 on, Gen Con managed this line remarkably well, and that's what you're leading into now, I think, is how Gen Con managed it.
Well, yeah, but we should mention that people had started queuing up the day before outside, because they had locked the convention. They were outside at 4 a.m. in the morning. Actually, they were outside the day before hanging out. They stayed overnight. There was a significant number of people there in the middle of the night at like 4 a.m. Then when they opened the doors, the line started forming, but then there was a problem with people rushing and changing place in line. So overall, after day 1, everything was very sensible, and there was no problem after that. And people were limited to getting 1 and 1 only of this, whatever they were giving out, the starter deck, the pre-release deck, by getting their badges punched. So it wasn't that people were getting back on or anything like that. There was 1 given out. I did not get one. I was not going to try to get one.
I did not either. And during the first couple days, it actually was incredibly difficult to get into the exhibit hall, because this line blocked a lot of the entrances into the exhibit hall itself. There were certain doors you just knew you couldn't get into because the Ravensburger booth was right there.
On the first day, when exhibitors are always in there early, of course, very early on, especially on the Thursday, the first day, I was running a little late, so I was trying to get in. I had an exhibitor badge. I was trying to get in, and I couldn't get in from the main entrance door, which is like Hall H. I literally had to go all the way to the end and go in on the Capitol Avenue side all the way down and get myself in that way. It was just crazy.
I've never seen anything like it. It's the longest line I've ever seen in my life at any sort of event.
And to continue with other Gen Con news, there was a theft, sadly, pre-start of the show, of Magic the Gathering cards from like a pallet of them that were left unattended during the setup on Wednesday. Thieves walked out with over $300,000 in sealed Magic the Gathering cards mostly commander decks. Indianapolis police are currently investigating the theft, and the crime happened on August 2nd, which was the day before the Gen Con opening. They've got them on film.
Setup. Yeah. That basically, people always talk about the fact that if you have confidence and you have attitude, you can walk into anything. And they just basically walked in like they were working there and setting up booths, grabbed a pallet of games, and just walked off with it.
Yeah, and they literally, the guys are on camera, so hopefully they'll find these creeps. It's a shame. Obviously, it was somebody who knew there'd be stuff. They knew that this company brings lots of Magic cards, right? So all of this stuff. Sadly, sometimes there are bad geeks out there too, right? Kind of weird. Any other items on Gen Con? Because we're just going to move to the next.
It was unbelievable. My brain is guacamole still from everything that happened at Gen Con.
So on a related topic, we'll go to the Disney Lorcana publisher, Ravensburger, has tapped a famous Magic the Gathering lawyer in their lawsuit. And Corey, I believe you found this one online from Polygon. Is this the guy who was working on the OGL?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the lawyer who was working with Paizo for their orc in response to the OGL. So he's kind of the most famous, most powerful lawyer within the gaming sphere. He's worked with Wizards of the Coast many times before. This is Brian Lewis. He's associated with Gen Con, so he's been tapped to be involved in the lawsuit currently going on between Ravensburger, Lorcana, and Upper Deck, if you remember that whole mess. It's generally assumed at this point that the lawsuit is a bit frivolous and probably not too much is going to come of it. Upper Deck is posturing. I think it was a move to try to stall something this big, but Gen Con proved nobody is put off. I don't think anybody was put off by the fact that there was a lawsuit going on. Certainly that line says nobody was put off.
Yeah, because what Upper Deck wanted was to stop the release, right? The release actually happened. I
think so. I think they wanted to delay the release at Gen Con, or at least not allow it to happen at Gen Con. And that, I don't want to say that the lawsuit was thrown out, but that idea of stopping the release certainly didn't even come close.
Whether or not they have merit, they certainly have some merit. It's not like this is completely frivolous. Again, I'm not a lawyer, and if I was a lawyer, I'm not your lawyer. Just saying those things. They are bringing an argument. This is going to take, I would say, easily a year before we know the final thing that happens with this lawsuit. It's not going to happen overnight. This release is going to go on. If they do win the Upper Deck, they're going to get some cut in this thing. If they don't win, it'll go away, and the lawyers made a lot of money, which is sadly what happens very often.
I suspect there's going to be a settlement behind the scenes, just make it go away.
I believe that's probably right, because you will spend hundreds.
Information. I am not a lawyer. I am,
You will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on lawyers, so they win and everybody else loses, sadly.
Yeah, but basically, we all understand that obviously Upper Deck doesn't want Lorcana not to be published. They just want to have some money from that. So basically, the settlement is exactly what they want to achieve. We don't, I think, believe that they want to stop Lorcana, right? Sure,
exactly. So I guess this is actually more Gen Con news that I should have put a little before. But at Gen Con, every year, they give away a very, let's call it, eclectic award. It's called the Diana Jones Award. Corey,
good, I won this award, so I don't use the words that I don't understand. Eclectic is good or not?
Eclectic just means weird.
No, eclectic means different. It has many sides to it. It's okay. It's weird.
Technically, I haven't won it, but I was nominated, so I want to be nominated for the good award.
So
let me tell you a little bit about the Diana Jones Award. So it's been awarded to groups, people, organizations within board gaming to kind of promote excellence in gaming. But the fascinating story about Diana Jones that I'm not sure a lot of people know is where the name comes from and what it actually is. So this group actually was involved in printing RPGs, and they were printing the Indiana Jones RPG, which did horribly. And in a celebration of pulling it, they actually burned the RPG in a fire. And some of the papers and some of the bits from the RPG were actually pressed into this acrylic pyramid. And if you looked at it from the right side, it said Diana Jones, because that's all that was left of
Not
Indiana Jones.
Indiana.
How the hell you know this story?
Yeah,
This
no,
is
it's
insane.
I know it
and
too.
more to it. So the physical award has this joke behind it. There is no person named Diana Jones. It's Indiana Jones. The sad part of it is several years ago, they had moved this original award to the winner, and somewhere in the travels, it was lost. So the actual physical award is, in all reality, lost in the mail. Somewhere in travel in Canadian Post, it is lost.
That is crazy. But yeah, Diana Jones awards, they as you mentioned, they nominate people, games, conventions, events. It could be anything is nominated. Terraforming Mars was nominated too back when it was released. Ignacy, you said you were nominated for a game or as a designer?
It was a game. It was De Profundis role-playing game that we released in Poland back then.
Wow. What year was that?
2002, 2001, 2003.
Oh, wow. So even
like 20 years ago.
Well,
It's
before
been
I was
going
in
a
the
long
industry.
time.
Yeah.
It
So
was
this
our
year,
first role-playing game published in English, and it got some attention.
Sure. So this year, this is actually kind of special to announce the winner of Diana Jones, because he's a very, very good friend. Connor Alexander, the Coyote and Crow is the name of the winner. It's an RPG, and it was created by Connor Alexander and published by Coyote and Crow, which is wonderful. Very small company, but Coyote and Crow has done pretty well for him. So I'm really happy. Connor used to work at PSI, so he was one of my face-offs there. We talk about PSI all the time, but he branched out on his own and is now publishing games and role-playing games. And congratulations, Connor. I think this is just absolutely wonderful.
And
as you understand.
Coyote and Crow envisions a world where colonization never occurred and indigenous people in North America controlled the land. So I just love the theming. The game is amazing. So congratulations to everybody. And this is what Diana Jones is good for, is pointing out. You said it's a small company, small group. Diana Jones is fantastic for bringing those people and products to light.
Very cool. Ignacy, what are you holding over there? What do you see? People who watch this get extra insight. Ignacy's doing crazy things over here.
I wanted to say that I was very sorry when Connor was leaving PSI, because he was working with us very closely. He was responsible for marketing, which is my thing. So I was in touch with him. So I was very sorry when I read that he is leaving the company, but apparently he did a very good decision. His game on Kickstarter got more than 16,000 backers, very successful, and now the award. So Connor, congratulations to you. I miss you, but you're doing an amazing job.
Excellent. So this story makes me so happy. I mean, this story makes me crazy happy.
It's great.
Magic the Gathering's The One Ring, the card, right? We already talked about the fact that it was found by someone. And of course, the backstory is, right, there is one of these cards in the entire billion, whatever number of cards that they printed. It's printed in black speech, right? Yeah. Ashna Grimbatul. That's the freaking writing on the actual One Ring. You can't read it unless you can read Elvish and then say it with the black speech accent. Ashna Grimbatul. Anyway, it makes me crazy. This makes me so happy. But what is really cool here is that it was found, it was graded, it's now put under glass, and it has been sold for $2.64 million to the biggest geek in the world, apparently, that nobody knew until recently was such a big geek, Post Malone. Post Malone, he's a rapper. He's noted for having tattoos on his face. Side story, I actually found out that he was such a big geek about less than a year ago. People were talking about, oh my God, yeah, he loves Magic. He's a big gamer. He has game designs, but he has actually purchased it from the guy who found it. This makes me so happy.
The guy went to a Post Malone concert and word got around that he was there. Post Malone called him backstage and offered him cash.
Well, I'm sure he didn't have $2.64 million in his pocket, but yes, a wire transfer.
It was a spontaneous
deal
purchase at the concert.
They made a deal there. So this guy had a hard offer of $1 million from the company out in California, a big card company there. This guy then got a $2 million offer from a Spanish game store, which
plus
offered
a paella.
Right, a trip to Spain and a paella and $2 million for the card. And Post Malone comes up, and I don't know how they got to 2.64 million, but that was the number. And I mean, to me, that's really cool. I mean, not any individual that we hang out with is going to put $2.6 million down on one card. But this is cool that somebody who's in absolutely the mainstream. Again, I didn't know who this guy was until about 10 months ago. Post Malone. Ignacy, do you know who Post Malone is?
I immediately researched after the news, and I found out that he did the one song for my favorite movie of this year, Spider-Verse. So now I like Post Malone as well.
Right.
I've known about this for years.
Well, because
gamer and all this.
You're a weirdo. What can I tell you? So I'm just happy that a real gamer, and he's in the mass of people's consciousness. I mean, obviously, he's a musician, songwriter, and other people will hear about the fact that he's got this thing and he games, and those people will be brought into the hobby because of this. So congratulations to the guy who found it and to Post Malone. I can't wait to have him show up at something maybe so that I can see the One Ring card myself. So now we have a series of kind of stuff about hobby game sales. Are they up? Are they down? Because we have some conflicting views. From ICV2, and this was presented at Gen Con. They always present information in at the trade day. And they said that hobby game sales rose 7% in 2022 as consumer behavior and market conditions normalized and COVID impacts ebbed through the year. Collectible games carried the category in dollars, while role-playing games had the fastest growth rate at smaller dollars. All other subcategories were flat or down. So that means board games, they're saying, were probably flat to down. So maybe this does not contradict other things that we have reported here in the past. Asmodee reported that they were down last year. Corey, I figured you would have 1,000. I figured you'd have 1,000 things to say about that. But if you want,
it's a trap. It's a trap.
It's a trap. I'm going to go on and talk about
that
ICV2. Then also about almost a week later, reported that board and card game sales were softer, but this was for a smaller period. They were on the downslope in the spring. So this is on the first quarter of this year that they were actually down. They're not giving percentages here, but they said that evergreen sales of evergreens, new customer acquisition for the category, and or repeat purchase rate of recently acquired customers are both down. Inflation was hurting the general sales. Play style was a factor, meaning that that lighter games were selling more than bigger games. And then they gave the top titles for the quarter. And Wingspan, again, is the number one game. And as we had talked about, Wingspan is now outselling Catan, and Ticket to Ride, which Ticket to Ride's not even in the top 10. Now, this is not a hard list. It's not 100% that this list is accurate. They do they poll some game stores, and I'm sure they don't have Amazon's data, but they poll stuff and then they find out.
Yeah, that was my question, because they get data from the retailers, but does it include Target, Walmart, and big chains?
It doesn't. There's no way that they get that data. I mean, I don't know, but it doesn't indicate that they do, nor does it indicate how many people are in there. So I think it's a estimate, an estimate based on the data that they can get.
And traditionally, those big box stores have any percentage, but now huge numbers of publishers within our side of the industry are selling through the big box stores. So it's going to be a significant part.
Yeah, it's going
because if we see the Wingspan is doing so well in retailers, and of course it's a huge game, it sells like crazy, absolutely. But you said it is selling better than Ticket to Ride. I would ask most likely Ticket to Ride is selling like crazy in Target, Walmart,
but Wingspan is there as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and the second game, that number 2 title is Root, followed by Sleeping Gods. I find that one astonishing.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. Red Raven, small company, very, very good company. Cascadia by AEG, Gloomhaven, Ark Nova, Catan, Betrayal at House on the Hill, Hero Quest, Horseless Carriage. Those are the top games.
Horseless Carriage?
Yeah.
From Splotter Games?
Yes.
That's a weird pull.
No. Sorry, we vote. It is impossible. No.
I mean, I agree. I think
they don't print that many. They don't print that many.
Absolutely. They don't.
Yeah, so we're going to have to not talk about this list anymore. Sorry, ICB2. It's really because listen, I think Wingspan is the number 1 game just based on what I can see going on. But yeah, how could it possibly be that a Splatterspielen game? I mean, I bet some of the people listening to this don't even know who Splatterspielen is. I mean, they're that small and they don't print a lot of games. So how is it possible? Don't know.
Yeah, and with Splatter, I mean, they've done a ridiculous number of reprints on Food Chain Magnate, and I believe that Horseless Carriage would even outsell Food Chain.
Yep,
their own game.
There you have it.
Throw out there with the whole "is it up, is it down," all that. Just talking to exhibitors and people within Gen Con, every single exhibitor I talked to had the best Gen Con they'd ever had.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard on social media. I was not at Gen Con, but I heard many people saying it was the best Gen Con for them.
Everyone sold out really early.
I can give you 2 data points on that without naming the companies because I shouldn't. One of them said by the end of Thursday, they had their best Gen Con ever. And the other one said they gave me the number and the number was, all right, it was Indie Stronghold because they gave me the number. I won't tell you what it is. They said it was by far the best Gen Con ever. So I can say,
the one that I can throw out there is most of the time these companies will bring hundreds of games and then sell out. I talked to a publisher who, without even thinking about it, brought thousands, which is a very strange number to bring to Gen Con, and they were gone by Friday.
That is insane. It is. Oh my God, this is insane.
Amazing.
And I'll say it was Lucky Duck and Cosmoctopus.
And we'll say it anyway.
I don't care.
This is insane. This is insane.
I'm sure they don't mind you saying it. And a little more from sales. Hasbro, which of course is, just insanely large company, publicly traded company. Their WotC / digital gaming division was down, and Hasbro has written off $25 million on the D&D movie. So here's the overall thing. Sales in Hasbro's Wizards of the Coast and digital gaming segment were down 11% in Q2 from $419.8 million last year's second quarter to $375.6 million, with Hasbro taking a $25 million write-off on the Dungeons & Dragons feature film. Magic the Gathering was a big reason for the sales decline. Magic sales were down 15% from, the numbers are large, $365 million to $300 from a previous $311 million. It's $311 million
Yeah.
For the first, right, you got it. Which the company attributed to the timing of set releases. For the first half, Magic the Gathering sales were down 4%. So, I mean, I'm kind of surprised at this because of the Magic the Gathering Lord of the Rings release, which was released
It
near
did
the
very
end of the
well,
quarter.
but yeah.
So it may not have had the right impact because it was the end of the quarter. So the next quarter, it'll probably get picked up there.
I just got a little comment there on the D&D movie. So affectionately around Gen Con, there was this thing called the D&D Apology Tour. So Hasbro and the D&D movie actually were showing the movie for free during Gen Con as kind of a gift to the D&D lovers. So I thought that was an interesting thing. And they were giving away these really remarkable popcorn buckets at the theater that were shaped like giant D20s, big plastic D20s holding the popcorn.
But that was in the Indianapolis or across the country?
In Indianapolis at Gen Con.
I did not hear about that. And I had actually thought on some level that the D&D movie.
I got a couple of them.
Then you should give me one. But I thought the D&D movie did. I had not looked, but I saw it. I know it. I know the geeks generally liked it a lot. So
yeah.
Kind of a shame that it didn't do well.
They put a lot of money into it, and I think it just barely met the money that they had put in, from what I understand.
Very, very interesting. All right, guys. We still have
given us Ignacy's given us the exit music. It's time to stop. But I wanted to throw out real quick. Dice Tower did put on a really remarkable awards show this year.
Yeah, I saw the photos. Yes, tell us more, because I saw the photos.
Style of the Academy Awards, and I think it went really well. It looked good. It shuffled through. It didn't go too long. I really hope that Dice Tower continues this going year after year, not just because I was a repeat presenter, but because it just looked like the Academy Awards. It had this really nice feel and look to it. So
very cool.
Very, very cool. All right. All right. You know what, Ignacy? We talked about it. We're not going to go to strategy and tactics because we had so much news, but let's just mention that the contest will be picked next week. I promise, guys. I'm sorry. With all the travel, I didn't do it. I have to go through all the things, and I've got to create a little spreadsheet. Anyway.
I will try to throw in above board swag into this as well.
Oh, that's very nice of you, Corey. Cool. So we're going to pick a bunch of winners, and I promise we'll report on it next time. And even if you don't end up listening to that episode, don't worry. We'll reach out to you via your BGG handle, and we will get you the stuff that you deserve as a winner, and we'll shout the winners out next time. So with all of that, I think we've gone long. We're going to go directly to the final scoring. Thank you all so much for listening. Help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts, or you can watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. You want to be part of this? You can ask us questions for strategy and tactics, or answer our question to you for the playtesting segment in our guild on Board Game Geek. Find those right threads. The websites are portalgamesus.com, podfathergaming.com, dicetowerdish.com, and on Facebook, please like our pages, /BoardGamesInsider, /PortalGamesUS, and /PodfatherGaming. You can speak directly to Ignacy, Corey, and Steven. On Twitter and Instagram, it's @PortalGamesUS, @PodfatherGaming, @DicetowerDish, @DicetowerNow, and the active YouTube channels, Portal Games Movies, The Podfather Gaming, and Above Board TV. On TikTok, it's Portal Games US. We can't wait to see you in person. I saw, by the way, again, as an aside, I cannot tell you the number of people that came up to me at Gen Con just to say hello. One woman was crying. I'm like, really? I just put my pants on the same way as your husband. It's okay.
If we're lucky.
She was crying. And I'm like, she was such a big fan. I'm like, I'm not important. If you see Tom Cruise walking, that guy is important. But thank you for everybody who just said hello. And
absolutely,
it was so much fun.
I got to meet so many people and got to say hey to so many people. So I super appreciate the love being the new guy on the Insider. And
as I always say, if you do see us at a convention, and the next ones are the World Series of Board Gaming right at the end of September. Essen, you'll see all of us, and maybe we'll do a podcast. We should have done an event there. It's a little too late maybe for that. And then also at BGG Con after that. So there's still plenty coming up this year to see us. Board Games Insiders, professionally edited by Joshua Bowman from Tabletop Submarine Podcast. If you want your podcast edited by Joshua, reach out to him at tabletopsubmarine@gmail.com. And that beautiful voice you hear doing the intro, outro, in between segments is that of Ray Greenlee. He can be contacted to do your voiceover work at raygreenleevoiceover.com. So, gentlemen, I have some special news to mention here. Drum roll, please. I doubt you're going to put that in.
No,
anyway,
nobody's going to hear that.
No.
I tried.
So the game that I have had under development contract with Asmodee, myself and Jeff Engelstein, was officially optioned by Asmodee. So this game, unless something very weird happens, will see the light of day. We do not expect it in 2024. Do not expect it in 2025. I hope to see it by 2026 at this point, maybe. And they won't even commit to that. It's sometime the game will come out. But I'm very excited by the whole thing. They like it. They're excited. It's out in blind play testing. There's going to be an assigned developer to work with us after this. So it's kind of cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bonator designer. Nice.
Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
See y'all later.